Hey folks, I'm Sarah and I'm on the 2025 jury for what I think is the best book prize for literary fiction from small presses. It's called the Republic of Consciousness Prize, United States and Canada, and it is dedicated to literary fiction from small presses in North America. Over the next few months, I will be sharing every single book nominated for the prize, and while I can't share my personal opinions on each book just yet, I will share enough details so that you can get to know the book and the publisher. Every book gets its very own video, and you are not going to want to miss a single one. Next up is number 4. These are in no particular order, except maybe the order that they arrived in the mail. Number 4 is The Orange Notebooks. This is by Susanna Crossman, and it's published by Assembly Press. After the tragic death of her 6-year-old child, a woman is admitted to a psychiatric hospital when her grief begins to get out of control. And while she's in this hospital, which is in France, she begins to write out her thoughts to try and process what has happened in a series of orange notebooks. And through these journal entries, she obsesses over memories and myths and different symbols or signs she thinks she's encountered in order to try and understand what went wrong and try to figure out how to fix it. For example, she is engrossed with this idea and tradition of telling the bees when someone has died. So there's this tradition in some cultures where if somebody dies in a community, you have to go tell the bees that they have died. And she starts to think that, maybe everything started to go wrong because they didn't tell the bees when her son died. And while she's at this hospital, she meets a man who has a boat and he knows how to sail this boat, and she begins to think that maybe this man can be the person who can sail her to the middle of the English Channel, which is where she thinks the beginning of her son's story began. And she thinks if she can just reach this spot in the English Channel, she'll figure everything out and everything will be fixed. So I want to share with you the moment that she arrives at the hospital so you can kind of get an idea of the style of this book. She's obsessed by a lot of different things, including the color beige, which you'll see. There's just like a page with just the word beige over and over and over again. But when she arrives at the hospital, it says, "On a wet winter day, an ambulance drove me through hospital gates. The grounds were spotted with buildings, some low-lying and others tall. Trees sprang up against the sky, the bare branches were like a web, and I was not sure whether I had been caught or saved. For a net can prevent the death of an acrobat or cage a wild animal." So I think it's so weird, and I love when these kinds of coincidences happen. So weird that 3 of the first books that I read for the prize, 3 of the nominations that came in the mail first, took place at least partially in like a psychiatric hospital or a mental hospital or asylum of some kind. And each of those books, the other 2 were The Remembered Soldier and Porthole, kind of treats memory in a similar way. So while they're in these hospitals, the characters are rifling through their memories in kind of a non-chronological way to try to figure out how they got where they are now. And so that's just a cool connection amongst some of the nominees for the prize. Susanna Crossman is an essayist and fiction writer. She was born in the UK and grew up on an international commune and actually wrote a memoir about that experience called Home is Where We Start, growing up in the fallout of the utopian dream. Assembly Press is a startup publisher of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, and they say, "We make books from our home base in Prince Edward County, Ontario, for a worldwide audience." And other books to note from Assembly Press is The Lodgers by Holly Pester, which I read earlier this year. This was a nominee for the Republic of Consciousness Prize last year, and I read it and loved it. And then also they published The Seers by Suleiman Adonia, which is another Republic of Consciousness Prize related book. This was published by Prototype in the UK and was longlisted for the prize there last year, but it was published by Coffee House Press in the US, and then in Canada it was published by Assembly Press. So that kind of gives you a little idea of some of the books that they have published. And that's just one of many incredible books nominated by one of many incredible publishers. The long list of 10 books is usually announced in mid-January-ish, but I guarantee you there are going to be more than 10 amazing books from these nominees. So if you love offbeat, under-the-radar literary fiction, you are going to want to follow along. Click above or below for the next nominated book. If I've filmed it, it'll be available there. If not, stay tuned for just a little while longer. And in the meantime, you can click the playlist below that will contain all of the nominated books that I've shared so far. Again, my name is Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.